So we are live. We're live.
We live.
Live in the
good, man.
Oh, this is not the basement though.
Yeah, we not in the basement. Yeah, you remember Big Tigger and in the basement and all the freestyles. Yo, Big Tigger could
he used to get after a little bit.
Those good old days when you have
I remember
Donnie Simpson.
What was the what's the name?
Video
Rita?
Soul.
What's the Rita, the cartoon that used to come in there looking stupid all the time?
Bro, dudes.
Rap City.
I just miss the days of dudes just spitting. Like I remember during my time in college, that's when Rockefeller was hot. When they all went to Hot 97.
Oh yeah, I watched that like a couple of weeks ago.
It was crazy.
Yeah. What's it called? Oshino was wilding. Oshino, Amelia.
Bro. Flex ran out of records, man. Flex ran out of records, man.
Who was out there? Jaye was out there. Beanie, Freeway,
Guns, Young Guns was out there.
Chris was
Freeway.
out there, Oshino, Emilio was
That
out
man
there.
Free said, y'all can't mess with Free for 2 reasons. My 2 kids, 2 mouths to feed. I was like, okay, he getting ready to eat some dudes. But then Jadakiss kind of got him though.
Who, Beans?
Oh yeah, he got Beans and he got Freeway. Nah. He got Freeway on the same track where he got Beans.
Nah, but when Beanie did the special delivery.
I mean, they went back and forth. But
you remember the special delivery freestyle he did? Yeah, nah. Like, if it was any other rapper besides Kiss, probably Beans would have got him out of there.
I don't want no smoke with Beans for saying this, or Freeway. But when Jada said, "Bring the baby gorilla with you," he dying for free.
Yeah.
Bro, stop it. What?
No, that was actually that was dope.
I was battle, like, oh,
that's when everybody was like going at with diss tracks.
Like you say, that's when that's true artists. That's
oh yeah, they got after each other. That was
they used to try to folks. That's the thing in the rap industry is like,
bro,
like folks like them dudes was like probably more thorough than any of the other dudes that's out now. But like, if it came to rapping, like they try to rip your head off. Like that was an era. I shouldn't say an era. Those are guys that literally came for your throat. Yeah, but they came from that. They wasn't rapping when in order to even be able to rap at that time,
you had to battle.
You had to be in the streets.
You had to battle. It wasn't like prime example. They I hate to say not hate to say, but they say Snoop used to go in the studio and rap off the top of his head.
He still does that.
You know what I'm saying? Just start rapping off the top of his head. Right. But that's the difference between somebody
he spent years doing that when he was like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah, but that's different when somebody trying to write it down.
Well, Dre used to get mad at Snoop because he'd be like, yo, I like that. Just say it this way. And Snoop's like, I don't remember what I said.
Yeah.
So here comes something new.
Something totally different.
Because he didn't remember what he said. Crazy.
Nah, I remember, like, that era for me, like, I mean, I don't listen to a lot of rap now, but I remember like
back then it's just like some of the R&B has changed, and just like rap,
music's changing, it's evolving, all of it.
A lot of things have certain meaning.
Music is trash now. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, like the thing is with music now is that the instrumentation is completely like gone and like gotten completely taken out of it. So like a lot of and even like this is a real thing, and like if you're a musician, you notice is that like when you have music that is played or instrument like beats that are played through like a machine versus stuff that's played through actual instruments, right? Your brain actually reacts differently to it.
Yeah.
Like what's the joint called? Like, Quan, what's that joint? You know what it is, right? Like when the certain like sounds that come from like a guitar or a bass drum, a bass guitar or a violin, like the actual literal sound that's recorded versus the
keyboard. When you press the keyboard and
Fruity
give you a
Loops
beat
or whatever, right? It's a complete. Your brain reacts differently, correct?
Like the different harmonics, the transients,
the frequencies. Yeah.
The frequencies not as yes, but not as much as like just the little details. When you playing the guitar, the guitar.
Yeah.
Hear the finger picking.
Doesn't your brain react different? Your brain actually like
because it's a different sound.
It is.
It's a truly different sound.
That's why like people like Prince that knew how to play so many different instruments was so talented because he could play the guitar, piano, he could play everything, but it's just because he used that talent to do his music because he could hear it instead of just like you say, pressing on something.
It wasn't. It's just like your brain, like when your brain hears it. Like me as a listener, I don't play any instruments, but as a listener, like my mood is even different when I hear that stuff. Like literally, it could be the same type of song, not like a rap song, like literally a R&B song.
That's just like you hearing it live and hearing it on the radio.
It's like live music. That's why I love live music. Yeah. Oh yeah, you can record. Yeah, you can record this. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
we live
for like
we just
intros and outtakes and all that.
We gonna get to the topic. We just
we just
breaking the ice a little bit.
But yeah, like when you play an actual instrument, the human connection.
Correct.
It's a bit more.
Yeah.
It's felt.
It's more intimate.
Yeah, it's more.
Let's call it what it is.
Like you can relate when you see somebody playing the piano. You hear even hearing the
You can feel it different.
You feel it more.
Yeah.
You feel the emotion.
Like Beanie said, you can feel it in the air.
Oh, we remember.
Yo, that track was fire too. Shout out to Beans.
Yeah, you can leave that on, Quan. You ain't gotta cut that out. But this is the Cavalier Convos podcast, right? Oh yeah, we are recording. This is the Cavalier Convos podcast. This is your boy John.
H2O today, type of day.
We got Dwayne here. We got Reggie here. We got Quan, our videographer, in the back. My wife is in the back, Mrs. Edwards. We got Michael here, executive producer, and we are.
Don't forget about Dre.
Oh yeah, and my dog. Dog is here too. Hopefully he don't try to get up in the picture, but. Appreciate y'all fellas once again being on this podcast with me. We're going to get into some stuff here today, but how are y'all feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Daylight savings.
I ain't got no issues, man.
How's your bodies feeling?
I'm straight, man. It don't really
get
me like
ask
that.
me that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Monday morning, and then I can tell you like
that joint hit me. It hit me in the morning because I was supposed to get up to go to church. Lord forgive me, I ain't make it. I did not make it this morning, so I have to, deal with that. But, yeah, man. So what we're going to discuss today, talk about today, the topic is, what things or what is the qualities that, you look for in leadership. I guess we could start there. Obviously, depending on what you're the leader of or what you're in charge of and the scale of it, there's different things that come into play when it comes to, I guess, those qualities. But I think there's some things that's universal across the board, man. So, like, I guess y'all could kind of go ahead and start with that and give your opinion or thoughts in regards to, like, I guess for yourself, like, what are some, Reggie, you got it. Go ahead, bro.
He always pointed me first. Huh?
That's D-Lou's world, man. I think there's a lot of, you said it, right? There's a lot of pieces to it, but I think it has to start with being able to galvanize people. Like, if you're leading a group of people, whether it's in business, sport, whatever it might be, if ain't nobody looking at you for guidance, then you ain't no damn leader. And that comes with time, right? That comes with having done the things that you're asking people to do. That comes with having the ability to really teach people, not necessarily exactly how to do every single step, but the intricacies of the process and where they can find their own efficiencies in that process, right? And so I think, when you start talking about leaders and leadership, it has to start with the ability for people to actually believe and want to follow you.
Yeah.
Because if nobody wants to follow you, you're calling yourself a leader. Well, who the hell you leading? Ain't nobody behind you.
Well, how much does experience play into that? Because, like, for example, say you have a, use it in my world, basketball coach, 5'7", weighs 365 pounds, and has a limp. Can he successfully lead a group of young men who are trying to, play at the professional or college level?
Yeah.
But what would qualify that person to be able to do that?
Sometimes
I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying what things specifically in that situation. Let's talk about that situation. Use that situation example and pick that apart.
I say sometimes it depends on the character of the person.
Let's talk. All right, yeah. Well, the character, but okay. But what else aside from their character?
Oh, they got to trust him first, right?
No, no. I get what you're saying.
I'm going to tell you how to get that.
Let's use that example first.
Absolutely.
And pick apart that example. Why that person may be qualified, because it's possible that that person could be qualified to coach a group of individuals, even though they may not necessarily have the athletic bone in the body. What things would they specifically, based on what we're talking about in regards to that area of expertise, how would they be able to effectively do it? What would they need to know? What experience would they have to have?
Presumably, what experience does he have to have as the leader?
To do that specific job. Let's use that as his.
He has to have knowledge of the game.
Okay.
I mean, and that can be, listen, let's call it, that can be learned in a damn book, right? I'm not saying that's the best way to do it, but it can be. We know coaches at the professional level that started by reading about the game. So if that is the formula that person used to get there, that's their formula, right? So at the end of the day, it comes down to part of that is, let me backtrack for a second, because part of it is once you're given the title, there are certain things that come with that. So whatever process you went through to become a head coach, it starts there, right? Whether you played a second of basketball or not, or you played a second of football or not, the minute you become a head coach at any level, that title comes with a certain level of respect. Now, over time, you have to maintain it and theoretically increase it in your players. But that title comes with a level of respect, and theoretically, the person that puts you in that seat is competent enough to understand that you have done the requisite things from a knowledge standpoint, knowledge of the game, student of the game, coaching philosophy, playbook, game planning, those types of things.
But the thing is, you also have to, because I've been around guys who have coached but weren't really good players or players at all.
That's usually the case. Usually the best players are not great coaches. And you can look backwards over the years across several sports. You look at the NBA, Magic Johnson was not a great coach in his time. Larry Bird was okay for stretches, and then there were times where they were looking at him like he was crazy. Isaiah Thomas had his issues as well. Those are three of the greatest players in the history of the sport. They were not great coaches. That doesn't mean you can't be a great player and be a great coach, but history has told us a lot of times the best players don't turn out to be the best coaches.
Well, let's look at it. Like skipping steps, though. Because Magic Johnson, right, those guys, example. But what, besides being a player, what level of experience coaching did they have? So did they,
varied.
Did they learn? Because, like, for example, let's look at, like a person like, let's use, Juwan Howard, for example, right? He worked. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He worked under different coaches, right? He's got basic ground level experience. So whether you're coaching or whether you're working at like IBM or something like that, just because you're not a, computer, genius, right? Let's just use that, right? Doesn't mean you can't work at IBM and be successful in a leadership position as long as you get that proper level of experience and work your way up, get that experience as you work your way up.
Yeah, well, you got to understand the skill set, right? And I'm going to just say this real quick. That's evident in the business world when you look at people like project managers. Yeah. Oftentimes you have IT project managers that were necessarily not hardware people or software designers, engineers, that type of thing, but they understand the business and the process. So they can still, in turn, be good project managers and be good leaders because they understand process, right? So whatever the case may be, what is your skill set to where people find a way to be willing to follow you? Because I don't care what anybody says. You could be the smartest person in the world. I actually had this conversation with my sister recently. Like, there are a lot of people that at times have this super high level of on paper and academic knowledge. Mm-hmm. But if you don't cross that with the ability to galvanize and connect with people and use your real world experience, you could turn out to be a bad leader. It doesn't matter how smart you are, because you still have to know how to apply it to people. I say this, and this is why leadership to me is interesting, because what is the most unpredictable thing on this earth? Human behavior. Yeah. And as a leader, you got to figure out
Psychologists.
What all of
everything.
these people need, and that's why I love the sports and what it can create for people, because in sports, coaches will tell you, I'm going to treat everybody fairly, but I'm not treating them equally because everybody ain't the same. And a lot of people look at that as favoritism. That's what you want to call it that. But a lot of it is understanding who your players are, right? Some people respond to, like I know a very prominent women's basketball coach, and she was like one of the best players she ever coached. She never yelled at her, because if she was going to yell at that young lady, she would have went in the can. That would have been it. She doesn't respond well to that. And some of her most difficult players, all she did was scream at them, and they turned out to be her best players.
When we were talking about a leader, we always heard this saying that most leaders are born, not made. But that's not always true, but some people got a natural leadership ability, and some people, it takes them time to bring it out. They might had it in them, but they had to learn. One thing being a leader, they got to be, whoever you lead, they got to be able to trust you. They got to trust you. You can't go into something, it don't matter if it's on a job or coaching, because one thing I'll use this example, being in the military, having soldiers underneath me, they have to be able to trust me. They got to trust, like, okay, he gonna tell me like it is. He gonna be straight up. And like you say, everybody, I couldn't treat every soldier the same. Certain soldiers I could yell at, and I know they go, right, Sarge, I got it. Some I had to talk to, like, look, now you need to get this done. Yeah. They like, okay, you know what I'm saying? It's a difference. Like you say, it's not like you coloring somebody or you trying to be favoritism, but I had to learn being in charge, especially I have males and females. So you have to learn, everybody got different mood swings. Everybody got different ways of going about things. Everybody came from different backgrounds. So being in charge, you got to realize you got to relate to a lot of different things, and you got to get more into their needs compared to your needs. You got to show that you're more concerned about what they got going on in their life. And so they like, okay, he kind of gets what I'm coming from. So I'm starting to earn a trust as a leader. So, and then being a leader, you got to be able to mentor. You got to be able to mentor. You got to be able to teach. Everybody can't teach.
Yeah.
Everybody can't teach. Like you say, like we talk about coaching, everybody can't coach. Everybody, you might know some people that know the game like the back of their hand, but they cannot teach it to anybody else. They cannot coach it. So, and that's a big thing when it comes to being a leader. Everybody cannot be a teacher or be a mentor, because some people can't deal with their own issues themselves, so they cannot be a leader.
I want to ask you a question as it relates to the military, because I think this is a perspective that I think a lot of people obviously don't have, right? Because I think oftentimes we think about leadership and we think about titles, right? And we think about pecking order and hierarchy, which is something that is major in the military. But I submit to you this and then ask you this question as it pertains to that. In your experience in the military, you look at a new officer coming into the military. They went through maybe OCS or whatever the case may be. They come into the military.
Officer training school.
Right. But then on the flip side, it's a non-officer that they have to lean on in the office, because that person has what I would call the institutional knowledge. For instance, I might be talking about people at home may not understand this, but go look it up. Let's just say it's an 03, right, coming in. But then there's an E7 that's got to really run that office, because that E7's been in the military.
I got you.
That's why I'm going here. No, but that's why I'm going here.
03 is a captain in the military. E7 is considered sergeant first class.
Right. Yeah. And it's different. The O's and E's are the same across the branches, but the titles are different.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is there are times where the leader on paper is up here, but the true leader is the person that's been around and has that institutional knowledge. So they are trusted to run certain aspects consistently. So I say all that to say, how much does the concept of institutional knowledge based on title get lost in the equation based on what you've seen in the military, because I feel like in the military there's a better job of handling that.
It is, because you got
also Dwayne, what you do all the O's and E's.
I break it down. I got it. Well, he's saying 03 is a captain. That's basically that's a captain in the military.
He's using Army.
Yeah.
Rankings here.
I know
E7 is
you know what it is because you're dad.
Yeah.
So
Navy is a little different, but the titles are different, but the numbers are the same.
Well, officer, it's a difference. You got enlisted and officers. So when he said E7, that's enlisted. That's basically a sergeant first class. The difference is you got officers, basically a lot of them came straight out of school, and they come in as leaders. The difference is you got enlisted NCOs or soldiers that start from E1 go to E7 or E8, E9, basically master sergeant, sergeant major of the Army or whatever, or sergeant major. What happens is they're more intertwined with the soldiers compared to an officer. Now the officer he's the leader, he's up here, but most of the NCOs they're more connected with the soldiers. So a lot of times the soldiers lean on that NCO because non-commissioned officers, that's what the NCO, they lean on him because they are more intertwined with their person.
That's
so
the
a lot of times
knowledge piece of it.
So a lot of times when the officer try to come tell them something, some of the soldiers look like, really?
He doesn't know how this really works.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because due to the fact, now not all officers were like that. Some officers went from enlisted to officers, so they kind of knew to both sides. But the ones that came out of school, all they know is like, basically, we always say they know the paperwork. They know how everything works on paper.
Right.
The NCOs that work with the soldiers, we know how it actually physically work, how they got to put together when we go out there in the field, how everything got to be laid out. Yeah. Point, you know what I'm saying, from A to Z and things like that.
Because of the fact that y'all actually have the real life experience.
Yeah, so
institutional knowledge.
So it's the difference is, and officers outrank us, and when we enlisted, they do outrank us, and we have to salute them because out of respect, they are officers. But at the same time, now it has come to times where officers come in, and some of them try to come in to be a leader, but as an NCO, I had to sit them down like, you don't know what you're talking about yet. I had to teach, we had to actually teach them about certain things so to make them a better leader. It's not saying, because sometimes they teach them like, oh, I outrank you, so I'm in charge. Because you outrank me, don't mean you know what you're talking about. Yeah. That's the same thing like somebody get hired that's above you, because they come in, don't come in at like, oh, you know everything that's going on. It's good to listen sometimes. Sit down. It's good to listen to what people are saying, how people are teaching things, so you can kind of learn. If you got to write notes, it's good to learn what's going on, how everything works before you go in and start to change things. Because once you start,
if you come the first day and you start trying to move things around, and then that joint,
now you got a whole bunch of soldiers over here that's like, we don't even like him. We don't,
I swear I just gave you a GPS right where I wanted you to go. Because and the reason why I say that is, right, getting back to what you were just saying in that whole process and sitting that officer down. Remember earlier we talked about trust.
Yeah.
As a leader, you have to trust your subordinates too.
Yeah.
You have to understand that they may have some institutional knowledge that you don't have.
True.
In any realm, there's always a situation for somebody to say, hey, I thought this was what we were going to do. And we've all seen it in our professional lives. Yes, in theory, that is. But this, and this happened, which meant we have to pivot to this.
Yeah.
That's where the institutional knowledge and the consistency of going through the day-to-day process, maybe not as a leader, can help the leader understand I can learn from them just as much as they may be able to learn from me.
To me, the best leader is the one that listens.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to sit down and listen. you have to see what's going on. You have to understand what's going on so you can know.
You gotta understand what you're dealing with.
Yeah, and that to me, that's the same thing when you come to coaching. You got to know.
Absolutely.
You got to come in. You got to listen. You got to know what's going on. Know what you're dealing with.
Let me tell you something. So like when I
we ain't gonna talk about yours coaching.
You know,
come on, 6'12".
The first thing, right, when I first took over the school that I'm coaching at now, the first practice I went to, I didn't say anything. I just watched. They had another
interim.
A dude who was just training them. A basketball trainer came in and was working with them like a couple times a week. And he actually played at Winthrop, which is in the Big South. And I'm not going to get into all that because we know.
He played college basketball.
Yeah, so, good dude. So, but he was running it. I just sat there and I watched. I wrote stuff down. And I just watched and observed. I watched body language. I watched how certain people reacted to when they were corrected. What players didn't go hard every single time. When they was running sprints, who didn't touch the line, who, had showed signs of weakness in particular positions. It's the best thing. If you are put in a leadership position, the first thing you do when you get there is not change a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
Just sit there and see how everything operates.
Yep.
Watch it, and then once you have an idea of what the things that are whatever's missing or what things need to be tweaked, then you go ahead. Like I love Bar Rescue. That's one of my favorite shows. Anybody who knows me, that's one of my favorite shows. But the thing is, right, when John Taffer, most people know Bar Rescue, the dude that's always screaming, acting a damn fool. But it's entertainment, but there's a lot you can learn from it in regards to leadership. Because every time he goes to one of the bars or restaurants, the first thing he does, he goes in, he sits down, or he sends someone in there, and he eats the food. He drinks the drinks. And then, right, as he sees how things operate and things work, then he starts making changes. So
absolutely,
as a leader, like the best thing you can do is listen to people talk, see how people work, see and observe, take notes, and then compute the information that you get. And then do what you got to do.
Yeah,
it's big. I think I'll say it this way, like with coaching, and I'm sure you've done this before, right? As a coach, I always thought my best coaches were the ones that when I came off the field or off the floor, if there was a situation where maybe they thought I did something that wasn't correct, they always said, "What did you see?" And when I coach, that's what I ask my player. What did you see? Tell me what you saw. Because if you saw something that I didn't see, now I can coach you to that. If you didn't do what you were supposed to do because you saw exactly what I saw, now we have a different conversation. Mm-hmm. But the first thing you have to do is assess what is actually happening. What is happening to the person, which goes back to the point of listening. Because if you don't understand why, right? And let me backtrack even more on this. Whether it's a coach or professionally, one of the questions you better always ask, what happened to the person that was in this role before me?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to know.
I want to know.
Yes. Did they retire? Did they quit? Did they get fired? Yep. Was it a harassment case? I need to know.
Yeah.
I need to know what I'm getting myself into.
Not only that, but also what have people been conditioned to expect from this role? And what needs to, go back to your point, needs to be corrected based on what is expected of this role. Because chances are, I say this all the time in sports, usually if a coach got fired, unless he did something illegal, it's probably a bad job. You probably don't have good enough players, or you don't have the resources you need to win. The chances are, if somebody got fired, it's a bad job. If somebody retired, who knows? Mm-hmm. If the other person just left, then you assess based on, well, maybe they got some more money. Well, but maybe it's more money. Maybe right. There's different aspects of it. But chances are, if somebody got ran out the door, even professionally, right? If you get fired let's just say you get fired as a regional manager of whatever business you're in. If you got fired, either you were missing numbers in terms of your
productivity,
your goals and productivity, or you were making a bunch of mistakes with staff and you had high turnover, or you were just completely incompetent and you got the job in a way that you shouldn't have gotten it.
Yeah.
If you've gotten fired.
Yo, and that happens.
It happens.
That happens a lot.
It does happen. So I want to know, if I'm the new leader coming in, what type of person am I replacing? What happened to them? And as somebody who is going to report to or play for in a coaching aspect of this person. I also want to know what it is about this situation that makes you feel like you can lead us. Mm-hmm. Right? What do you see or what have you been told that makes you think you're the right person for this job?
And one thing I could tell people, every leader is different. You know, I use the military. I can use football. Every leader is different, especially in the military. I had some strict leaders, and we had some leaders that are like, hey, as long as you do what you're supposed to do, you ain't got to worry about me. You know what I'm saying? And it's different. You know, everybody is different. Like even with coaches, you have some coaches, all they do is yell. Then you got some coaches like, I'm not going to yell. They're going to sit and talk to you. But then at the same time, you respect them a little bit different compared to the one that yell. It's just a different level of respect. It's not saying you don't respect the one that yell. It's just a different level. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the one that talk to you, sometimes you absorb more what they saying compared to the one that's yelling. A lot of times it all depends on, that's me. Yeah, I can say that's my part.
No, I think that's interesting because, as a coach, when I coached, I had a philosophy. I was only going to yell under two conditions. You made a great play, so I want you to know that you did right. And when I say great play, that's not necessarily making the tackle or the interception. It's doing what you're supposed to do. Yeah. I will scream for you to the top of my lungs for that. The second thing is, if you don't give me max effort, I'm going to yell at you and ask you why you're not giving me your effort. I don't care if you got it wrong. Go hard. If I coach defensive backs, if a receiver gets by you and you just stop running, I'm going to scream. And you're going to come sit next to me. But if he runs by you and you keep running and he's just faster, guess what? Good job. You tried. Next time you go out there, this is the coverage I want you to play because you can't run with that guy. And if it was my mistake for putting you in that situation, because I said cover him this way, I should know that you're not quick enough to cover that guy. Yeah. That's on me. And so I think that's important too and I would tell them that day one, if you hear me get loud, one of these two things has happened. And if you're the one I'm getting loud at, you already know why I'm getting loud.
The thing is that, and like I heard somebody say, black boys don't just have to play sports and things like that.
You know.
But at the same time, yes, they don't have to. But I think for boys in general, and specifically black boys, right, the athletic field or arena gives them the opportunity to, that's probably not the easiest way, but the number one way that they can build those leadership qualities. They can build those qualities that are necessary for leadership, for discipline, for competitiveness that's required.
Accountability.
Accountability. It's not the only area.
Oh, I would say it's not the only area, but
it is something that regardless if you decide
I always say get involved in something. In general, you don't have to be sports. It could be something in the community.
But also, like when you talk about sports, it's not limited to football and basketball.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
We as a community, we just think because martial arts is a sport.
Yeah,
karate is a sport.
Discipline.
Golf is a sport. But these things that debate team, even esports, bro. I mean, they're giving away scholarships for this stuff. So
I know.
But at the end of the day,
it's crazy.
Something to where you as a man have to be competitive. You have to be put and surround yourself in competitive environments because regardless of what we want to think about gender roles or whatever the way society is trying to portray manhood and specifically black manhood, genetics are genetics. We as men compete, not even directly with each other, but just for the simple fact that we know as the man we have to provide. We have to produce. We have to cultivate. We have to make things better. And if you're going to be a leader, and being a leader does not necessarily mean you're going to wear the title of manager, CEO. It just means just a leader of your household, just a leader of your family, right? Because as a man, and even just certain things, right, that we do as men in regards to our family structure or in our family life, right? For example, right? there's certain things that we have to be able to manage and take care of when it comes to our families. And if we're not developing those leadership skills, even at an early age, our families are going to suffer for it. Even if we ain't got, even if we want to shoot a basketball or throw a football, we still got to have those qualities. Yeah, if that makes sense.
I think that's part of development. But go ahead, D.
I think a lot of times, like I understand what you're saying at an early age. Sometimes it happens. Some guys just develop later too. Yeah. You know, that's just like maturity. Some of us mature later down the line. So a lot of times, when it comes to if you're trying to become a leader, or you want to be a leader, or you want to be a good role model, or you want to be a good example, I'm always going to preach it that you got to surround yourself around good people. Yep. It's about who you surround yourself around too. Sometimes it's who's in your circle, because a lot of times you got a lot of bad things that everybody follow behind them, but it's not good leadership. It's toxic.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So a lot of times you gotta what happens is a lot of guys get caught up in some of the toxic leadership and thinking that's the way they're supposed to lead when it's not the right way, but because it worked for them, don't mean it worked for you.
And I think Quan, I said the same thing, right? I said, like, I'd rather not have a bunch of people around me. I said I'd rather have like 2 or 3 people that are serious and just rock with those 2 or 3 because, like, you know, a lot of people want crowds or they want it to make the seem like whatever they're doing that it's a big deal because of the amount of people are there. But if those people aren't strong, you don't really have anything because what's the sense of having a bunch of people around you and and everybody is weak?
I think getting back to what you were saying and tying it into what you just said, I think oftentimes when you talk about getting around a bunch of people, right, it's because oftentimes that person that's supposed to be the leader wants everybody to see, right? And back to your point, I think the big thing with leadership to me, a big aspect of it is the intangibles, things that you cannot see, right? A lot of times toxic leadership is about what I can show you, about what you can see. But great leaders, much of their best skill set is the intangibles, the things that you don't see, the trust, the belief, they consistently have people looking to them for answers, right? Those types of qualities, charisma, right? Can you command a room without saying a damn word? And some of the greatest leaders do that.
Yeah.
If you think about some of the greatest leaders on this earth, they walk in a room, everybody shuts up. And if they stand at that front door for 20 minutes and don't say shit, everybody's still looking at them like, I'm waiting on you, bro.
It's that confidence.
That kind of intangible tool is major in leadership. And I think that is often lost. If you think about it in sports, right? You look at certain who's doing the little things, who's making sure to touch the line because I said touch the line, who's making sure to finish every drill, right? Those things, people can kind of see them, but they're not visible to the naked eye, right? So don't lose sight of the intangibles when you're talking about quality level leadership.
Yeah, I agree. Like you say, it all depends. Like you say, a good leader is a person that could walk in and everybody just snap, like, oh, hey. Or it could be one of the things like, hey, oh, here come, what's the name? Or here come whoever is coming. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because you already prepared because you want to be on your P's and Q's.
Is a certain level of fear, and what I mean by fear is not necessarily like a terror, but a certain level of fear, like how you fear your father when he comes. You know, when you know you.
A healthy fear is what I call it.
A healthy fear is necessary to be a good leader.
Yeah, it's a healthy fear. Cause see, the thing is when I'm prime example. I'll say with a father and the kids, it's a different with a healthy fear than like just fear like, oh, every time we do something, he's gonna beat us. Yeah, you know, it's a different. You know what I'm saying? So it's called respect.
Yeah, respect. Yeah,
yeah, it's called. It's more respect.
I think fear, like, you know, fear, reverence, whatever. whatever you want to
because you got so much respect for that person, and the thing is, you like, okay, if I do this, I know I'm gonna get in trouble, but I have that much respect. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always gonna be try to be on my best.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I'm always gonna be, but I'm gonna try to. But it's because you have that much respect for that person. It don't have to be your father. It could be an uncle. It could be a friend. It could be somebody just got a role model that's ahead of you, or a coach that you got that much respect for. Because due to the fact you like, if I do this, I'm gonna disappoint him, and he's gonna look at me like, and that look that you get without any words will hurt more than anything.
Because, and I know I'm the one that used the term fear, and in this instance, I'm actually going to take that back. I use the term healthy fear. What that really is accountability.
Yeah.
A great leader, you know that you're going to be held accountable for your actions by that person if you did something outside the realm of what was necessary to go in a positive direction. If you just went rogue, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
But that's because your ass went rogue. They didn't tell you to go rogue. So now you got to be accountable for that. I think the other thing with leaders, to me, that's important, and this is just an example of what I used to do at a time for my employees at the time. People are going to come to you with their grievances, their issues, their complaints, whatever the case may be.
Yes.
And oftentimes I would sit them down and I say, hold on, before you start, are you venting or is this an action item? Venting means they just want to get something off their chest. Action item means they expect me to do something in relation to their complaint, grievance, argument, fussing session, whatever. And I always ask that question. And 99 times out of 100, they said it's an action item. Within 45 seconds, I could say, nope, you're venting, but carry on. Because there are certain things that are not going to change, right? Especially in a corporate environment or corporate policies in certain situations. So at that point, as a leader, you need to be able to allow that person to vent, get it off their chest, ask them now that you're done, right? How do you feel? Do you feel better? Do you understand why this is just a venting session and not a true action item? Do you understand the reason why we're still going to carry forward with nothing changing?
The thing is that with that, you got to be, as a leader or a person in that role, you have to be in control of your emotions, because you got to
absolutely
understand
correct.
that, like, all right, this person is venting, which usually is an emotional
correct
type of response.
And so you have to in my opinion, the way I handled it, I always let them completely finish, and then I would ask them twice, is that it? Yeah, I'm good. Are you sure? Yeah. Okay. So now let me tell you why this is really you just venting and not an action item. Your issue was ABC. Well, guess what? Corporate policy says DEF. So that ain't changing. Just make sure you're clear there, right? Now, let's talk about how you can handle this moving forward. Let's talk about what you can expect moving forward based on these policies and the best way for you to be efficient in the process. If you go about it that way, after you let the emotion come all the way out, you calm them down by explaining them the rationale behind why all that was just an emotional outburst, and you understand that and respect it. But here's why things are not going to change. And I realize that, and you have to acknowledge to them, I know your situation is your situation. It's very unique. But the company or team or organization, however you want to phrase it, has to govern this way. This is the way this is, fortunately or unfortunately for you in this case, this person. But I think usually if you do a good job of letting them get the emotion out, then explaining to them why certain things may or may not, right? Because they may change. May or may not change. And then you get into how to help them as a leader moving forward. You're going to build a rapport with that person that in turn is going to permeate throughout the team better than you ever thought you could, just simply because you let somebody damn finish.
I could address one thing also about being a leader is leading by example.
Yeah.
You know, we got a lot of leaders that don't lead by example. They want to lead by words, but they don't lead by example also. You got leaders that they doing one thing, but you're trying to tell somebody else to do something totally different.
Yep.
You know, that's a toxic leader. That's what caused bad leadership. That's what caused trauma in the business, military, anywhere, on basketball, football, baseball, anything that's going on. I always tell people, lead by example. Like, prime example, I've been in the military, being a leader. If one of the guys that's an NCO with me, if he doing something that was incorrect and the soldiers see it, you're like, well, why is he able to do this, but y'all telling us not to do it? And then that's when, as me being a leader, I have to go to him, hey, let me talk to you. Mm-hmm. A leader to another leader. You talk, and they're like, hey, you got to understand, people are watching.
Every time.
And that goes for any leadership. I'm just using the military as an example, but people are watching, just as like a coach. If you out doing certain things, them players are watching. Yeah. They watching like, Coach was out. We just saw Coach sneaking out on. We on the road game. We just saw Coach sneak out on after curfew, but y'all stand on us about being on curfew. You know what I'm saying? But even though I knew coaches may be sneaking out, but it's just a point. Don't expect them to do something and you not doing the same thing, or you not trying to uphold.
Hold yourself to the same standard that you're holding the people that are underneath you. It's just that simple.
Well, that and right, like I always say this, right? You have to get into your point, right? It's when you say certain things, when you ask people to operate a certain way, you got to do the same thing, right? So as a coach, you're going into, let's just use a college coach as an example: basketball, football, baseball, tennis, hockey, golf. It don't matter the sport, right? When I'm going to use who I think is one of the greatest coaches in the game today. When Don Staley goes in the living room to recruit a young lady to play basketball for her at the University of South Carolina, she is asking that family to trust her with their child. Mm-hmm. And she's also asking her player, that player, to come play for her and don't do things that hurt her teammates. Mm-hmm. Don't be detrimental to your teammates in any way. On the flip side of that, if she's out there berating those players, I'm not saying she is. I'm a big fan of Don Staley. Big fan.
Since Virginia.
I'm not saying she is. But if she's out there berating players and or doing things or saying things in the media that are anti anything that is important to her players, you are doing the opposite of what you're asking people to do. That goes back to the example piece, right? If I'm going to sit here and ask you, play for him, he's your brother, don't do anything that hurts him, and then you turn around and say or do something to his room, his personal property, tear up his car, whatever the case may be, that doesn't make any sense, right? So if I go do those same things, and there were some coaches to me that have made that mistake in the past, right? As we went through what I guess some people are calling the racial reckoning over the last couple of years, you're asking these players to play for their brother, and then you're saying certain things or wearing certain things in public that don't match that message. That's where you can get yourself in a lot of trouble as a leader. That's why leading by example to me is so important.
I think, when you say Don State, that made me think about Deion.
Yeah.
Deion right now, Jackson State, he's changing the environment. He's changing the culture. But if you know anything about Jackson State, you always see the saying, I believe. He wears it proudly. But the thing is, he goes into, like you say, he might go into a parent's house and say, I'm going to take care of your son. Even though they, like, prime example, they showed a video where he gave a young man a scholarship. And he told the mother after a game, he said, go in there, pretend like you say, you ain't been taking care of my son. She already knew he was getting a scholarship, but the young man didn't know. So when they went in the locker room, she said, Deion, you told me you're going to take care of my son. You haven't been taking care of him. He was like, so you telling me I ain't taking care of your son? I haven't been. No, you haven't. He said, okay, he got a full scholarship. Right there on the spot in front of the whole team. I'm going to take it. He said, I made a promise. I'm going to take care of your son. And that's what shows leadership. I make a promise. I stick to my guns. I'm going to stick to what I'm saying. And he's changing the culture, and people that are trusting him because, one, we already know Deion going to speak his mind. He going to say what he got to say, but that's the way he is. But when we talk about leaders, some people are leaders and they don't really even know it, especially when it comes to young men. We got young men that follow them, but they don't realize they're leaders. Just, you know what I'm saying, in general, just naturally just a leader, but they don't even see it. You know, and that's another thing, whereas like we say as when it comes to the community or whatever, we got to teach young men like, hey, these guys are following you. And they looking like, no, they not. They just hang around. No. Everything you do, they do. Everything you do the opposite of, they going to do the opposite of. You know what I'm saying? And they don't see it. That's why, like you say, it's good to teach them at an early age. But a lot of times they don't see it. They just seem like, oh, these just my homeboys. They just follow, you know, we all hang out. No. They follow everything you do. If you say, hey, man, let's go, man, you know, I feel like we're going to skip school today. They probably say, man, that sounds like a good idea. You know what I'm saying? I'm just using an example. That don't mean it's going to happen. But
No, you're right.
But that's what happens. And that's when you got to realize some of the young men, we like, hey, you already got leader qualities. You just don't know it, but you already got it because you already got people that's following you now. Just imagine if you actually put an effort to what you're doing, or a lot of things.
Or you concentrated into a particular direction.
Yeah. And
there's certain people who have just that natural charisma or that natural ability because, like, you know, some people are really good at breaking things down and making it very plain. Like, you know, and that's the one thing I could say that you need to have. Like,
that's a great teacher.
Especially if you're, like, an expert at something, right? It's one thing to be an expert at something. It's one thing to be able to also, like we talk about with a competent black man, is, like, you got to be able to improve the lives of others. And that is, like, related into, like, your job or whatever business that you're running. Like, if you can't make your employees better or the people who are underneath you better, because you cannot articulate or break down the intricate details, right, in a way to where a child could understand it. Because in some cases, you got to be able to do that. You're not really helping anybody, right? Because, you know, you come around folks all the time, they book smart. Or they could, you know, read you off and recite by memory all types of different things that are very, very intricate or high level as far as expertise is concerned. But they can't make it and break it down to the smallest molecule, which is necessary if you're going to be able to teach others and build them up and make them into what you are. Because leadership creates more leadership. You know what I'm saying? It creates more. It should create more. You know what I mean? That Michael back there,
we got our
man.
He getting hungry over here.
Here's what's crazy. Like, out of everybody that's a part of this, he's the smallest one.
Yeah,
and eats the
and
most.
he always eating.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm Chusky. He little, and he eat more than me.
Yeah, that dude eats like nobody's business.
I think he got a tapeworm or something.
I'm like, like you hear him, like he like, you know how even when like the dog, like Drake would come around, right?
Drizzy.
And he'll be, you can hear him in like the bowl and stuff like that, and like, yo, he's eating. That's what Mike be doing. Mike like,
Mike's a constant grazer. He's always grazing.
Back there hungry. I said, who grabbed him through the food back there?
I'm trying to figure out why he's still that small though.
Hey, some people just
Well, that's a good metabolism, boy.
Yeah, some people just naturally
he
age.
got like a teenager metabolism.
That's all genetic. Yeah, he hollering genetics. While he pull up over there, but I ain't gonna tell you what he pulled.
I'm like, yo, somebody hungry?
It's always him.
Yeah.
Facts.
But fellas, yeah, being like I say, it just everybody have leader qualities some way, form, or fashion. It just taking it and running with it, like you say. If he no athlete, if the young man is not an athlete, if he's in a band, we competitive. You want to be first chair. If you don't know what first chair is in the band, being in the band, they mean you number one in that section.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I think the other aspect is constant growth.
Yeah,
right. Like if I always say, like, my goal is to be better today than I was yesterday.
Yeah,
that's all we can really do.
In
every aspect, you want to be better than the previous time.
Yeah, especially as a leader, you want to always be better. I'm using military as a prime example. We call NCOERs. It's basically a rating for NCOs. You get that rating that year, you look at it, next year I want to be better. Even though you got all ones that 1 year. Next year you might get all ones, but you want something that's going to be better
Yeah.
on there, that's going to relate, that's going to make it better. And that goes even in evaluations with your job.
You either
Everybody
growing or
get
you
evaluations
regressing.
on their job. So you have 1 year, you might have this. Then the next year you like, okay, I may have this score, but next year I need to get better, or I need to get better at this. Everybody got something that they got to work on. We all do.
Ain't nobody perfect.
It don't matter if you're a leader or not. Everybody got something to work on. So everybody got, certain intangibles that, like me, I know I'm stubborn sometimes. And it affects, but at the same time, I had to realize I had to stop being stubborn. I got to realize everybody's not me. Everybody can't do things like I do, especially when I coach. These defensive back, they can't do the things I did because I could see the game, I could read the game. They may not see it like I do. You know what I'm saying? So it's just things like that. You just got to.
It's funny you say that, right? Because, I mean, I'll just tell y'all, like, as a DB, like, I coach them too. But I knew how to cheat. But I'm not going to teach these kids to cheat the way I cheated. I knew how to get away with penalties and hold it.
I knew all the dirty tricks.
I
knew all the dirty tricks.
It ain't cheating if it ain't a penalty.
Yeah.
But my point in saying that is there's intricacies that change, right? And to be able to understand that as a coach and not, like, I think the hardest thing sometimes for people to do is look at somebody and be able to not expect that person to do it exactly the way you've done it. That is such a dangerous thing because everybody is not you and you are not everybody. And so just because they do it a little bit different doesn't mean they're doing it wrong. Now, there are some parameters in which you have to go about certain things. Don't mean they're doing it better either. You're in certain realms, certain businesses, maybe the military, for instance, there are certain steps in the process, right? You can't, like, if you're buying a house, you can't just be like, yo, I got this cash. I ain't signing no paperwork. I ain't doing this, this, and this. I'm going to just give you this money. That's not how, like, there's certain things that have to be done in certain processes. But at the end of the day, we have to, I think the best leaders understand and know how to manipulate the gray area the right way and not expect people to be exactly like them to a T. Yeah. Because we are not all one and the same.
Yeah, because everybody don't learn the same.
No.
Everybody don't learn the same. Everybody can't comprehend the same. And that's a big thing as a leader. It's like you're teaching. I had to teach soldiers before. I had to teach classes. And somebody might say, I didn't get it. What is it that you didn't get? He's like, I didn't get it. I was like, okay. Everybody like, oh, how you like? It's okay. It's the reason why they didn't get it. It's something they didn't understand. So you have to probably break it down just a little smaller for them to understand it. And then once they break it down, you're like, okay, now I get it, the concept. So everybody has a learning curve. Everybody learns different. But that's, as a leader, you have to understand that. You got to understand that everybody can learn. Like me, I'm a hands-on person.
Yep.
You could tell me something. I'm like, yeah, I got you.
Until you do it.
Until I do it, I'm not going to be able to like.
And repetition helps, right? But I think the other thing, and I'm going to shout out to Quan on this one because he'll understand what I mean when I say this as somebody who does what he does in terms of audio visuals and all these types of things. We use these terms in media, but I think it also applies to thinking. You can be a linear thinker, right? Because there's linear editing, but there's also nonlinear editing, right? Those are two different things. You can be a nonlinear thinker, right? And I think what happens is, to Dwayne's point, he may be a nonlinear thinker, and he's trying to teach someone who thinks in a linear manner. Mm-hmm. You have to, as a teacher, and that's what we talked about, you have to be able to translate that and move that along. In the old days, the quote linear editing was tape-to-tape editing. That's really, now you don't do that anymore. A lot of things are server-based, those types of things. I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds. But linear versus nonlinear, right? In a line versus not in a straight line. It's okay to think in a jagged way, if you will, as long as the person that's helping you or teaching you or training you is willing to understand and accept that and help you down the path the right way.
I got a question.
I figured you would like that, Quan. As a man that does a lot of editing, I thought he was about to hit the Quan when I was saying it, but hey.
I got a question for y'all. I got a question. So we talk about leadership, right? What qualities do a leader need to have nowadays for as being like the way things are going right now, especially like with all the killings, the police brutality, all the stuff that's going on? What quality, not just being black or whatever, what quality does that leader need to have nowadays? Because, you know, at one point in time during the civil rights, we had leaders after leaders.
I think it's easy.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but what?
I think it's an easy answer.
What quality do we need nowadays for leaders? Not, it don't have to be the president. It don't have to be,
to me,
he don't have to be a pro athlete. He don't have to be, you know what I'm saying?
I agree with all
What does he need to have right now?
I think it's easy. If you have to, absolutely, to me, to be a great leader, you have to have self-control. You have to. Because whatever is happening in the moment, you have to be able to process and then project. And if you do it the wrong way, you could either lead people down the wrong path, create more problems and chaos, or worse. So you have to be able to control yourself, control your emotions, and process the situation, and then decipher what the plan of action is. Because if you just fly off a handle, you ain't helping nobody. You just making it worse. So to me, it has to be that self-control and the ability to assess the situation and then lay forth that plan. And think about this, and you would know this as a military man. When there's something going on that field and the enemy is coming, you can't sit there, oh my God, it's going to be crazy. They're going to kill. You got to be like, all right, guys, they're moving our direction. We need to do this, this, and this. You have to, because if those guys see you panic, I don't care what their training is. I don't care what kind of weapon they got. I don't care what kind of artillery y'all got around you. Y'all are in trouble if all of y'all panic. True. And it starts with the leader.
It does. Yeah. What you think, John?
The thing for me, and to what you're saying is, it's a couple things, but first of all, with the self-control, you got to be in control of your emotions. Basically, same thing, right? You have to be able to critically process situations for what they are at that particular time. So if you know that certain things have been done a certain way, but a situation arises to where you may have to do something in a way that you may not have or may not be normal or maybe outside of the script, you have to be able to adjust. Conflict resolution, whatever you want to call it, critical thinking, crisis management. You got to be able to process information quickly and come to a solution, right? Critical thinking skills, right? And you have to be willing to adapt to situations as they come. Doesn't mean you change your characters, your morals, or your values, or what you believe, or how you do certain things, but there has to be time where, like, all right, you know, everything cannot be done 100% by the book. Sometimes you have to go outside of what you've been used to, what you've been doing in order to get a particular goal accomplished. Another thing is that you got to be able to listen to people. People have to be, because when you listen to people, you earn trust. And we talked about that, like, those folks got to trust you. Like, if you're in charge of, you know, people and you're in charge of a company or a business or whatever, the people that are working for you or working under you have to be able to know and look at you and say, like, I know John is, or Dwayne or Reggie or whoever is going to be able to handle the situation that's going to not only make them look good or for their benefit, but for the benefit of me and everybody else around me. So all these type of different things, like, and you have to, like, be willing to learn from people who are good at leading too as well. If you're not around good leaders, like, seriously, how can you become one? If you're not willing to learn from people who have been there and done it at an excellent level, then, I mean, forget about it. You're not going to be able to get to that particular.
Forget about it.
You can learn from bad leaders too, though.
I mean, yes, you can learn from bad ones.
Yeah, you learn what the hell not to do.
You can
That's
learn
what I'm saying. You can learn from bad leaders
you
too.
can. And but you need
to pause it. I get what you're saying.
There's enough bad leaders.
Yeah.
But in order to know what a bad leader is, you have to be around some good ones.
I got one thing before. I know you're saying got to be able to think quick and come up with a solution. My thing is taking control of the situation, even if you don't know what to do right then at the time. Taking control of the situation, make sure everybody stay calm and relaxed. No matter what it is. If you take control of the situation and everybody's still calm, they still got faith in you, you don't have to be like, because you might be panicking yourself, but at the same time, if you got, like you say, you got control, but your mind is racing 20, all 100 miles per hour. Now you're trying to think what to do, but at the same time, trying to keep everybody calm and relaxed. Or it could be a project that has to be done. Sometimes once you take control of the situation and you're like, hey, we got this. We're going to get it all, and then you give yourself time to realize what you need to do and you bring it to them. Sometimes, like I say, it's not always got to be like fast on your feet. Sometimes it's just being in control of the situation so everybody don't panic. It could be, like you say, it could be a project that need to be done. Something happened at work that the project went left field. Now everybody like, oh my God, we ain't got but a day to get it done. If you take control of the situation and give you time to think about, okay, this is what we could do to get it ready for the next day. Now everybody like, okay, we got it. You know what I'm saying? They'll follow you. So that's why I say it's just being in control. Like you say, you got to be in control. Take control of the situation, even though you might be panicking in yourself, but don't show it. Also, you just got to, like I said, you got to build confidence in your people that's around you. Yeah. You like you say, you don't have to have 20 people. I can have 2 or 3 people, but hey, just build confidence and making people better around you. Some people ain't gonna be as better as everything they do, but if you make them better in whatever you teach them, or if you're mentoring them, like coaches, every athlete is not gonna get a scholarship coming out of high school, but you can make them a better man or a better young lady for later on down the life. It's all because I guarantee it's a lot of coaches got young men that are always coming back to them like, Coach, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Because matter of fact, I was watching a couple of the movies, but some of my coaches, I go back like, man, if it weren't for you, Coach, you know what I'm saying? Hey, you was just like a father figure to us, you know what I'm saying, away from home. And you got guys that's like that. That means he was a positive example for us young men. That's let you know he was a good leader. He don't have to get you $1 million contract, or he didn't have to do that, but he made you a better man or a better young lady, or however, whatever it was the situation was.
So that was good, man.
Even professors, even in college, I got certain professors. I know we got to cut off a little bit, but I got certain professors, that was good leaders that taught some in the book, but they taught things about life too. And everybody respected them to the fullest. And they didn't sugarcoat it or nothing. But being at a HBCU, smaller college, you know what I'm saying, we have that more one-on-one like type of thing. So that's one benefit we had.
Dope, man. So sounds good, yeah. Well, this was a good episode, man. I appreciate y'all fellas once again for being on.
Word
appreciate
up.
all the listeners. And I guess we'll,
I guess our executive say we okay, we good, right?
We gotta end it with a quote again, I guess, man. This comes from the great Michael Jordan. My attitude is that if you push me towards something that you think is a weakness, then I will turn that perceived weakness into a strength. Hey. That's from Michael Jordan. And, you ain't got to go into detail about that. But appreciate all the listeners, man. Make sure you follow us on IG. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And, it's been a pleasure, fellas. And
one love.
Yeah, peace out, yo.
One
we
love.
out.